Okay, I get it. You liked having Phil Costa be the host, but did David Ornstein break any transfer news when he was hosting? I don't think so. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter. Hello, everybody. I'm back. Sorry to be back, to ruin the beautiful vibes of Phil Costa and his great hairstyle and his wonderful sort of English, Germanic, Spanish accent that he's developing as a citizen of the world. Instead, you get me. You're stuck with me forever. But with me coming back, I gave David Ornstein a call. I said, David, I could use some help here. I'm back in the hosting chair and people aren't going to be thrilled about it. He's like, I've got just the thing for you, a transfer rumor. And so we will be discussing our interest in Viktor Gyokeres. We'll be discussing Andrea Berta coming on board. And here's the beautiful thing. We have multiple Viktor Gyokeres scouting videos on the Patreon. They're there. You can literally go and watch them and make up your mind. Instead of having to hear what other people think about the player, you can hear what we think about the player. No, you can make up your own mind on what to think about the player, which is a beautiful thing. We have an Ekatike and Nippon scouting video coming this week, just as soon as I get Clive to agree to do what he had already agreed to do. So he's stuck with me. He's stuck with me, as are you all. So we've got lots of good stuff over there. Remember, if you use code AVP, your first month is $2.50. And then, you can just see if you want to stick around or not. But here's a reason to support us, because all of April, we will be raising money for the Zaatari Refugee Camp, the Coaching for Life program run by Arsenal, one of the great charitable programs I've had the privilege of being connected to. And through this community, we have raised, get this, £1 million to support this program. And do you want to hear the incredible thing? The program literally could not have stayed in operation without what you raised. So we will be giving, again, our £20,000 to the fundraiser in an effort to smash our £150,000 goal. We are looking for people who want to contribute. We've already had a book publisher, a book author offer to donate his royalties for the month to the program. We've had art donations offered. I know the Muslim Gooner community has asked to get involved. In Arsenal America, as I am American, they are doing a campaign to support this. If you want to get involved in a special way, you can always email contact@arsenalvisionpodcast.com. If you want to give an extraordinary donation, I know we have had a single individual give £150,000 through a charitable trust the last couple of years, and we expect that there'll be others that want to give. Look, I will bore you with the details this week and throughout the month. We're going to let you hear from the refugees themselves. We're going to let you hear from Martin Odegaard and Mikel Arteta asking for your support. The club have been blown away by this. In fact, in the latest financial reports, they said, thanks to the Arsenal Vision community, the Arsenal Foundation raised X amount of pounds. So really something that is connecting us to the club, that is giving back to a good cause. And these refugees, for the first time maybe ever, these young children, because the situation in Syria is volatile, I want to be careful how I say this, but for the first time, there is talk in the camp of people being able to go home, not be refugees, but be citizens again. If they can be citizens again, they can build a life. And if they can build a life, someday they could be at the Emirates watching a game. Can you imagine? You want to know what loving Arsenal Football Club means? Go to the Zaatari Refugee Camp and see that badge in those green spaces and see what it means. So it is a special program. We're thrilled to support it. We'll have a special episode out with the voices of coaches there and refugees and our players and managers. So I'm excited for that. But we would just love to have your support. It is the most important thing we do every year. And we look forward to doing it again. And last point, it's Mother's Day as we record this in the UK. So for those of you who are celebrating Mother's Day, to your partners, to your moms, a very happy Mother's Day. If you have lost your mother, I hope that you spend this time to reflect on the relationship you had and the time you spent with her. As someone with aging parents, still fortunate enough to have both of mine, I definitely take every moment that I have with them very seriously. And so I hope that wherever you are feeling joy and connectedness to moms everywhere. And every day should be Mother's Day. Celebrate moms every day. Enough of that waffle. 4 minutes long today. But, I missed a whole week of waffle. So really, this could have been 12 minutes. It was only 4 minutes. You're welcome. Hey, Clive.
Hello.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, I'm being pulled away from Mother's Day. I got the text. But hey,
you got, look, when Ornstein bombs, you got to come on the pod. And I will say, maybe a way to cherish your beautiful wife on Mother's Day is to say, honey, I will give you an hour of space from me for quiet reflection, which is probably what she wanted.
Good. She didn't look too heartbroken when I said I've got to do a podcast, to be fair. So so maybe I'm over-egging it.
Yeah, there you go. The Mother's Day present you didn't know she wanted, but she is getting. And here with me now, a man who is not celebrating Mother's Day, as it is not Mother's Day. Here's Paul. Hello, Paul.
Ooh, that doesn't seem very fair. Elliot, I've got to share with the audience. I was laughing before this started because I've always been impressed by how you come up with your bit right on the fly just before you start. You can see it in your face. You're like, oh, what? And then anyway, this grin starts to form on your face, and it made me laugh. Where you like, oh yeah, that's funny. I like, oh, that's good. And then you started off with your shtick. You had your shtick. You enjoyed it before you shared it, and you enjoyed it while you shared it.
And you ready for the segue, Paul? It may not be Mother's Day here. It may be Mother's Day in England, but the mother of all transfer rumors was dropped on us today by David Ornstein. I don't know. Maybe not the mother of all transfer rumors, but I needed a segue, and that was my segue.
Yeah.
I will tell you, by the way,
Happy Mother's Day, David Ornstein.
There you go. I did spend some time on a boat this last week as part of my vacation, and it was so nice to get away with my wife, who I've not been able to get away with in over a year. And, everybody there just called it a buoy. So I just want you to know, I was in the British Virgin Islands. They didn't call it a buoy. So take it up with the Commonwealth or whatever. They called it a buoy.
Were you with Americans?
But the people at these various places where there were buoys who are citizens of the British Virgin Islands, emphasis on the word British, said buoy. Okay?
Who are all their customers?
Fair enough. Okay, here we go. David Ornstein. Arsenal developing...
He says boy. He does not say buoy. I guarantee you.
Well, you're going to like this 26-year-old boy we're talking about now. Arsenal developing strong interest in Viktor Gyokeres as possible striker signing. Andrea Berta, who has been officially announced, more on that anon, admirer of 26-year-old Sporting CP forward, expected to figure prominently among AFC options, plus may be more realistic than Isak. That is what we call in the business the biggest understatement ever. Maybe more realistic? How about is realistic? Clive, I will turn it over to you. Your thoughts on Arsenal's emerging interest in the Sporting Lisbon gunman, Viktor Gyokeres.
Yeah, I think the two things are linked, aren't they? The Berta announcement and suddenly this breaking. Come on, you guys, you understand communication strategies. you sort of cascade them out one after the other.
Very good point.
So we get a Berta announcement, and then we get the wonderful Athletic article, which gives you all the background to it. It's part of the comm strategy, and suddenly you can then link a player to the new incoming sporting director, right? So it's just all linked. And actually, I from a football side of things, I quite like it. Isak, he's all the family silver, isn't it, for Isak? So and we know we need more than one player, don't we? And so yeah, I quite like it. Footballistically, I like it because for me, it's all about he's threatening that last line, and he certainly does that, Elliot. And we can actually say we have seen him live for 90 minutes. So this is not something we can talk about on video. We've seen him live for 90 minutes, and we played very well against him, but we felt his speed, we felt his power, we felt him, we can see it, and we can see what all the fuss was about, So if the price is right, then let's have a chat.
Yeah, so a few things on that, Clive. I'll stay with you just for a second. When we did go see him, I think, obviously, Gabriel and Saliba kept him pretty quiet, which they're going to do to a lot of fantastic strikers. But I think he did a thing that really clever strikers do is after a while, he realized, I think he figured out, maybe I can get myself isolated on Kivior. Maybe I can get myself isolated on, someone else. Was it Kivior? Who was it playing?
Kivior came on late. Yeah, he came on late.
Yeah, he came on late. That's right. And he ran him. He beat him for pace and power, and then had a rasping shot into the side netting. But I do feel that when he found a guy he could bully and he could run on, he flashed some skill. I was actually, for a quiet night from him, I was impressed with him that night. What about you?
Yeah, well, he had a quiet night on output, but let's not pretend we couldn't see him. That's my thing with it. We were all looking at him. We were all thinking, let's just keep him quiet. And he ran in straight lines against two of our centre backs who don't mind running in straight lines, and running side and side with people. And they were showing him in the near post there, go on and have a shot. And he was taking shots early. He was almost desperate. He was almost trying too hard in that game on film. And he was really trying to kick the case off the ball. But what really stood out to me was how physical he looked. And his movement went across the line. So he's on left touch line, right touch line. But everything was about being a threat. And that's it for me. I never get too hung up on individuals, but if I look at a team and I don't see threat on the back line, you know what I'm like. I get the ump. right? So I want to see people want to get it, move it, and run in and run through. Because unless you do that, you end up seeing what we're seeing, which is football all in front of people. Not all the time, but you know what I'm talking about. West Ham's the only example that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, threatening the back line. You need a couple, mate. Need a couple. Much more direct running and movement to really hurt teams. And then our passes will look a lot better if we have that movement up front.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a high usage player. A lot of the attack flows through him at Sporting, which I actually think is good because I don't think our striker is necessarily an off-the-ball player. We see with Kai Havertz, someone who can drop deeper, someone who can link play, someone who can have the ball at their feet. You compare that with someone like Sesko, who we've been linked with, who I think is a little more off the ball. By comparison, I mean, Kai is a high 30s, low 40s touch per 90 player. Gyokeres is almost exactly the same. Cheeky swig of red wine from Clive there. So I couldn't let you get away with that. I think that bodes well in terms of wanting to have the same game model, the same approach to how we use them. I don't want to say they're the same players. I think they have quite different qualities, but I think they're both comfortable being involved in many phases of play and being a high usage aspect of how a team attacks. One thing I will ask you, Paul, is how you think about Gyokeres move in terms of league strength and differences like that. We've seen some Portuguese league players struggle in the Premier League. He did play at Coventry where, he was good, but he wasn't a star. He didn't look like a star until he got to the Portuguese league. He's having his best season of his career. He does have 12 penalty goals in the league. So penalty specialist, but you're not getting 12 penalties at Arsenal in the league. I'm sorry to break the news to you. Maybe 12 penalties against, but not 12 penalties for. So how do you think about the speculation here? I think this is one, we get to be accountants again. We haven't done this for a while, where price really matters. At one point in time, there were prices like 100 million euros being discussed. And I do think that at his age, he will be 27 going into next season. And given his pedigree, I think that would have been rolling the dice too much on the difference in league strength. The rumors now are more in the 50, 60 million range. I believe that's pounds though, but even still. And at that price, there's not a hell of a lot out there in a soft striker market. And that is a good 80 million less than Isak. It allows you to do a lot of other things and think of your striker solution as Kai plus Gyokeres instead of Isak. And who the hell knows what else we have to spend on anything else. So how do you think about the difference in league strength in terms of projecting out what he could be and how price does factor into making this a more sensible move?
Look, he looks a very complete all-round player. I don't mean perfect and like world elite and world class, but he's good at everything to a certain level. I think his energy translates, his hustle translates. What do we need if we're going to have a striker who plays most games? We need our press back, which whatever you think about Marino and the notable job he's putting himself out there, you can see even with his full effort, our press is like, there's a line with press, you either have it or you don't. And below a certain level, it's just you're always there late and they can always play around you. He's got all, he looks to me to have all the pressing and all the hustle that we would be looking for. Not quite Havertz, but who is. I like his tendency to run behind and not to drop in. And speed translates. In fact, it translated against us. As you said, we kept him mostly quiet, but he got away from us on a number of occasions, and you suddenly saw, oh, there it is. There, that's the pop. So he has that pop, that direct, aggressive running, good dribbler on the ball, good technically, good passer. Maybe not elite at anything. In fact, not elite at anything, but very good at basically everything. So we'll get more than our money's worth at 50 or 60 million. And maybe he's not a player that you 100% start every game, but you probably start him almost every game. I don't think he has a weakness that you say, oh, we'll play this guy or that guy in this particular matchup. I think he is 6'2". He doesn't seem the biggest 6'2" player you ever seen. He might be one of those internet
They list him at
football
6'2",
stats.
but
Yeah,
that's on a
but he's
humid day
really,
wearing lifts. Yeah.
yeah, he looks like he's 6'1.5". He can handle himself, but he's not going to be bullying defenders. But he's still physical, and he likes the hustle, and he'll get around them. Look,
Yeah.
if you're asking me, I spend the 180 million or whatever, they're going to have to sell him in the Premier League. They're going to have to pinch their nose and sell Isak in the Premier League somewhere, because Real Madrid, I assume, don't need him, and I don't know who else is spending the kinds of monies. So why not us? If you want to be an absolute elite epic team, get yourself an epic striker, and that's Isak. And I know that's all of our money, but that's still, if they explain this was the pragmatic choice, I get it. But if there's a way to spend a ridiculous amount of money on Isak, and I'm not normally that guy, I think you would say, I think Isak's the guy you would still do it. But if you weren't going to do this, I think you go for Gyokeres or somebody very, very like him, and there's not many very, very like him.
If you don't rate the Portuguese league, by the way, which fair enough, he's held up pretty well in the Champions League as well, where he has 6 goals and I think a couple of assists. His XG plus XA there ranks him 13th in the Champions League. His XG is 12th in the Champions League per 90. So putting him in some pretty good company, just above Vinicius, above Lautaro Martinez, basically level with Kylian Mbappe, just behind Mohamed Salah for XG plus XA, but ahead of him for XG. And again, small sample size, but it is the point that he has been able to handle that level as well. I would disagree with Paul only on one minor thing where he said good at a lot of things, maybe not elite at any. I think he is an elite kicker of the ball. I think he can shoot the ball brilliantly off platform from all angles. And if you want to compare that to Sesko, you might say with Gyökeres, you're getting an older player who may not have the elite ceiling, but who can do some of the things we like about Sesko, right? Kick the crap out of the ball into the back of the net, but I think has a more well-rounded all-around game right now. The other thing, though, Paul mentioned Isak, Clive, and you and I talked about this offline briefly, so I think this is a good time to bring it up. Buying Isak for 130 million may mean you don't get other things, but I think it also means you're saying to Kai Havertz, find another position because striker's not for you. Buying Gyökeres for 50 or 60 million, they can play together. One plays some days, one may play other days. You have 2, I think, very good striker options who can share a season. And we've seen the difference between Kai at 100% running power and output and Kai at 50% running power and output, where he literally falls to the ground at the full-time whistle. So how do you think about that? Gyökeres as a Sesko analog, but someone who also can come in and share the position with Kai, not just take it from Kai.
Yeah, that was always my thought process. I mean, Isak's he's a wonderful player. And again, one I have seen live, and trust me, I've not seen our centre backs run like that before. They look uncertain, they look hesitant. They didn't want to collide with him. It was such an interesting thing. He spooked them. He really did spook them, particularly in the home game. He was absolutely magnificent, Elliot, for at least an hour. And so that's the best forward I've seen this season by a mile. But Kai Havertz is our highest paid player in a £65 million investment. So I was never thinking we were going to go for that guy, because you're literally saying to the other guy, well, we'll see you later. And that's not squad building, right? So my feeling around Sesko at the start of this season was, come to Arsenal now at 40 plus million. You can literally come and join the league and learn about the league while Kai Havertz takes the bulk of the minutes. No one's any expectation on you, but our game doesn't change too much. In fact, it has more power late in games, and you can just settle in. Now we'll look at this player to come in to save all our lives and create dreams for us all. Right? So there's a pressure around that. Personally, I don't mind which one, Elliot. I'll be honest with you. I don't mind which one it is, Sesko or Gyökeres. If the numbers are fairly similar, I'm not that worried. Sesko was always my choice because I've watched more scouting videos of him. Literally, that was it. He was always my choice. But they both fulfill the same role I had in my mind, which was to have 2 9s. At the moment, we have a 9 that was bought as an 8, and we have a 9 that could be a winger that's now got an ACL. In the club, we haven't got a true 9. And that can't happen. So you need to have a true 9 to go with all your facilitating players that you have. And so that was the only balance I wanted to fix. Right. So the name it can change in a tweet. Honestly, I'm not too worried. But if we buy another facilitating centre forward who doesn't want to run anywhere, then we might as well keep Marino up there, right? So seriously, and then he can lay it off to other people to run around him. So yeah, I like the idea of going for this player. And people say, but Clive Isak's the one. Well, yeah, we know he's the one. Everyone knows he's the one. And Newcastle are not fond of Arsenal Football Club. Why are they going to let him go below 130 million pounds? And I can't see that happening.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. I think it's a big point to underscore that this is a move for a center forward, not a wing back, a wing fielder or wide forward who can play center forward, not a utility hybrid player. Aubameyang was played out wide. Lacazette 9.5. I mean, one of those kind of things. This is a striker and someone who I think will have real clarity of vision for how to play the role, but also how to play the role we want the role played, because he's not a 12 touch per game striker. He's not Erling Haaland. He is a 40 touch per game striker. So that part of it I think is really exciting. I think there is going to be some frustration about this that we should probably entertain. And Paul, I'll ask you about it. This feels like a player that was gettable last summer, a player that was on a lot of shopping lists, maybe even gettable in January. I don't know. And I think there are some people who would say, how did we go a year without signing a striker when it was such a big need, when this was a player we looked at and was gettable? And here we are a year later going for this player that we could have had a year. I mean, there are some people that will say it feels like a lot of twiddling our fingers and scanning the menu without ordering, only to come back and order the first thing off the menu you were considering. So what do you think of that idea? The point that there was an opportunity to go for this player and not potentially see a season go down the tubes domestically, or had we gone for him earlier, only to wind up sort of back at this target?
Well, it's a very reasonable point, valid point. It might be the strongest point. It is an area we didn't address in the summer. I think very often what you do in the summer is you address the vulnerabilities you had the previous year, and we scored a lot of goals. And I think what the manager and our Edu were trying to do was to strengthen the overall team so that we could play at the same level for a bigger number of games during the season. Because we finished strong, but we had a tough start getting going. So they added depth. They added depth with Marino. Hasn't really panned out to be the kind of season where he made us stronger. I suspect he's still a better player than maybe it feels at the moment, but he was brought for an option rotation depth in midfield, which we lacked last year. We added a left back to strengthen our options across the back line because that was a vulnerability. I think we generally added depth and options on the basis that we weren't going for the elite striker option quite yet, but then we weren't short of goals last season. We were short of options that to bring Mikel Arteta to the 18 players that could do a job for him across the season, go deeper in competitions, go be stronger, more consistent in the Premier League. He wanted to bring up our bottom, our floor, and leave the strike. And because of the injuries, suddenly our attack fell away, our creative football fell away. And of course, you generally go to, if we had the one player on the attacking end to solve this problem. Would Gyokeres have made a big difference to if we got him last summer? Yes, he would. Our season will be a lot better because our attacking end of the pitch would have been better for longer, and we would have had other options to rotate to the wings and rest a few more players. But it's not really 2020 hindsight because many called it. But I saw the logic and thought we were stronger coming out of the summer and that we could have a better season than last year. And we only needed 2 more points last season. So,
Yeah. What do you think about that, Clive? The idea that we've kind of gone around the houses only to come back to where we started. And look, I want to be clear. Better late than never makes sense, but I can understand that there is still simmering frustration about not doing striker in the last 2 windows. And there was obviously a flirtation with this player. We scouted him twice because we thought he might be on our radar. So I'm just curious how you think about that idea that we could have just done this sooner, basically.
Yeah, well, let's think about what's changed, right? So, what's changed between last summer and now, per se? So, what's changed has been the price. The price was 100 million euros this last summer, and at that time, when we scouted him, we were thinking 26, 100 million. Is that the right thing to do? If you're going to spend 100 million, you go for Alexander Isak. So we were comfortable with it. There we were, and then we saw him and thought, he's a good player. But we handled him, but he's a good player. At 50, we think, interesting. Then no doubt they tried in January, but we're not back. And so again, what else has changed? We've got a new sporting director, and part of his due diligence would be to look at the strikers that are available this summer. So we're going to talk to people around him, see where his head's at, understand what the numbers look like, and then compare and contrast to the other guy we've been doing a lot of work on, which is Benjamin Sesko, whose release clause went up from 42 million, I think it was, to I think it's around 60 odd, 62 maybe. So I'm no doubt get corrected, but it's around 60s. And so that means we have 2 players that potentially a similar value. Now, that wasn't the case. Last year, Sesko decided to stay because he didn't think he could get playing time. I think that was naive, in my opinion. I think he should have made the jump and schooled himself quietly. But now he's going to come and they get a few extra quid. If he does come, great. If he doesn't come, there's another option. And I think it's the right thing to do. We should be looking at the strikers so everyone knows who they are. There's probably one more out there that we've been linked with, a guy called Retegi at Atalanta. And we played against him. I don't mind him, but I don't have the same feelings I do for the 6'5" guy and the 6'2" guy. But you guys know me. I think we need a central point, which is far more physical, rather than somebody like a Cunha or a Retegi that actually a bit more of a pocket picker. Do you know what I mean? That scores goals off of somebody or around people. So that's what's changed, Elliot. And for me, if I'm the new sporting director, I'm making sure people know what I think. Right, so what I think, so you can, what I think about who I know, how I operate, and this is the first bit of transparency we get around how we're potentially operating. So I find it really good. I generally do. It's been a good Sunday. It's been a good Sunday regarding that, and so hope this continues, and I hope that we do our due diligence and end up with the right person, because failure is not an option this time. Kai Havertz has got a proper injury, Elliot. And when we fly off to Hong Kong, wherever it is, Kai Havertz may not be fit for our preseason tour, right? So we are buying a centre forward. It's just a matter of who it is.
Paul?
Yeah, just one final point on the summer transfer business. I always feel that Arteta looks back at the critical matchup in the season that he thinks measures where we're at. And I think that last year was the 2 legs against Bayern. I think he goes back to that game and says, how do I go into that kind of a matchup next season and be significantly better? We started Jorginho in both of those matches because we were short. Our left back options were Tommy Yasu, so great player when fit, never fit. So in the other game it was Kivior. So he knew those are his 2 moves to get Arsenal to the kind of strength where he thinks we should have matched them the previous season. That's why he made those 2 moves. Again, if you're going to say Gyokeres or whoever, we should have got him in the summer, you can't argue with that looking back. But why did he make those moves then? Because he wanted to raise the level of the team and I think in previous seasons, it would have been the Man City games. He would have said, why are we still that level below them? What do I need within my overall team? And he's trying to raise the floor so that he can face all of those, get the level of the overall team to a certain level. It's a bit like the toothpaste thing, right? He built from the back. He built the team from the back. He built get the shape, and it has paid off. It's a patient approach, and I think that's who Arteta is. So I get it. I totally get the Gyokeres or Sesko.
Yep.
Sorry, Gyorka.
We'll put that in the California camp for you.
Yes, it's getting worse and worse. Gyokeres.
Well, and so a few things here, because I want to expand on that and ask you a question, Clive, but I'll just say he's also a big time XG overperformer. And while, you may say, who cares about that? I think that matters. I think when that is a durable stat, when it's over multiple seasons, I think it matters for this reason. Jesus, massive XG underperformer. Kai Havertz, pretty substantial XG underperformer. We have been guilty. Now, as a team, ironically, Arsenal have been one of the biggest XG overperformance teams of the last few seasons. But I think we have been guilty of not taking the chances in the key moments when they're presented to us, not having someone who is going to get you a goal from nowhere, hit the ball hard from the edge of the box and score one. And, we tend to get goals from our set pieces, from our team play, from just bombarding the box and a lot of tap ins and Bukayo Saka putting it on a plate for people. But I think having someone who can wallop the ball from 12, from 20 yards out or 18 yards out and just score a few goals that you didn't have to be perfect to get is important. And he is a player who seems to be consistently capable of doing that. But one thing, Clive, that I'll say is I think he has one very important quality. I think he's gettable. Is Sesko gettable? Are there other clubs involved? Who knows? Is Isak gettable? I would say no. What I would say is Gyokeres is gettable and probably... What was that?
It's right up there with availability, isn't it? As
one of your best qualities. Well, because if you look at last summer, and I said to you, what makes last summer different from most of our summers under Mikel? Actually, what makes it different is how late we got our business done. That was what made it different. Sterling came in on deadline day. Calafiori was late. Marino was late. We had no preseason as a group, and then injuries obviously impacted that. But I am pretty sure that Mikel would have said to Edu and now to Berta and certainly to Ato and Richard Garlick and Tim Lewis and Josh Kroenke, hey, I want a settled preseason. Whatever business we're doing, please try to give me we don't have a summer international tournament. We don't have to play in this ridiculous FIFA World Cup. We are not going to be in the Charity Shield, Community Shield. Give me a full preseason with the group so I can come in ready. Because if you say what made us so good a couple seasons ago, we had a really settled preseason. You remember, guys? We watched preseason. We're like, ooh, we look good. We look really good. And we were good right from the jump. I think getting Zubamendi in quickly, getting Gyokeres in quickly, maybe that one other winger target, if you want to pay Nico Williams release clause, you could have critical signings done before preseason starts. And Clive, for me, that is not a small thing because Mikel's system takes time to learn. The automatisms and relationships takes time to build. Kai Havertz is probably not going to be back till late in our preseason anyway. So what do you think of that aspect of Gyokeres as attractive and fitting into the idea of not just wanting to get good players, of course, but wanting those players in early?
I think it's really important to fix the problems that have developed this season, right? So you started that question off with how we were attacking, and let's be honest, how we were attacking was very Saka-centric, right? And so we need to change that. We need to have a lot more diversification in our attack. We need to have a lot more in different areas. We're very much a right-sided team, and that got into it. And by the way, that kid was on for unbelievable goal involvements, right? But it was very much a single point of failure. Much like Liverpool, by the way, but their single point of failure managed to stay fit, so no one cares, right? So, so we need to change that. We needed to add a little bit more ability to threaten the back line, which we are looking to do, right? So that's key. I want to see another left winger come in that has a level of gravitas that pulls people to him. That's key. And so supplementing the centre forward position is key. If any mistake you made last year, though I agree with what Paul said, absolutely 100% about the floor and fixing the problem, particularly in the Bayern game. That was definitely the game for me. That was definitely the week that he tried to fix in the transfer window. And he probably thought, you know what, Jesus, I'm going to build you back up and you can be that guy. And we saw him for about a month. Oh, here he is. And bang, he's gone. Right, so everything fell apart. Then, obviously, what happened to Saka previously, and then Kai, and then Martinelli at the wrong time, just after the window shut, and everything, and your plans are thrown out, and you got a centre mid playing centre forward, so everything falls down there. Your point about preseason is spot on again, Elliot. We was in LA,
sickeningly.
Because
sorry, guys.
I've got, let's be honest. Well, we didn't go to Philly, or I didn't go to Philly, and basically we went from LA. I went came back home. But I watched that Philly game against Liverpool. I thought to myself, they've won the preseason because they developed a new way of playing. They were all fit. They were all trying to impress their new manager. They were much better, closer to their own goal. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. They won the preseason by doing nothing. By just being the same group, developing different ways of playing, particularly deeper, and they had some continuity and they stayed fit. Whereas this year, with most of the European players came back tired, their main player didn't have a summer tournament in Salah. He had a tournament last January and fell away last season, towards the end of the season. This time he had a summer off and come back tip-top, and he's carried them to the title. He has, with the ascension of Gravenberch and Konate, players that we weren't talking about. He's carried them to the title. And so, yeah, I think your points are absolutely spot on. But the key thing for me, regardless of names, is to fix the problems that we have with the right profile of people. So I'm encouraged by this rumour. I'm encouraged by the Sesko rumour. I'm encouraged by Nico Williams rumour. I'm encouraged by Zubimendi rumours. Because this, to me, fixes the problems that we have. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and candidly, I mean, you could get Gyokeres, Zubimendi, and Nico Williams for not far off what you might have to pay for just Isak. Now, you could convince me that just Isak's better than all three, that you are getting the best striker in the world at the moment. Ousmane Dembele might like a word on that. Kylian Mbappe might like a word on that. Erling Haaland might like a word on that. But that's the company he's in. And that getting that, because, I mean, which would you rather have? Zubimendi, Gyokeres, and Nico Williams, or prime Thierry Henry? Right now, I'm not saying Isak is prime Thierry Henry, but the point is, if you get a good enough player at striker, it's more important than any of the other combinations. But if you start to think about it as platoons, as groups, it's Nico Williams with Martinelli backing him up. It's Saka with Ethan backing him up. It's Gyokeres with Kai backing him up, or even potentially playing 8 at times so you can play them together. And suddenly, that's a six-person front line that looks pretty damn good. And you've got some options there. And it saves you money if you want to go with another attacking midfielder to supplement that group. If you do want to buy me Eze, I'm not going to complain, even though he's getting longer in the truth with every passing day, but I'd still take him. You have optionality. You have other things you can do. And with Miles Lewis-Skelly coming through, that may be a midfielder of the future as well. So I think it's an interesting one. I want to do a bit of a part 2 on Berta's signing and, what his plan may be and what's going to happen with that. But Paul, you want a final word on this?
Yeah, combining your 2 points and completely forgetting mine, which was rubbish that we should go for Isak. Look, it'd be great if we could get him, but to Clive's point, Newcastle hate us. It doesn't mean they wouldn't sell him to us, but what they would do is dangle him. Luis Suarez, not that Liverpool were trying to dangle him, but it had that effect to
spend the whole summer chasing him, only to wind up with
convince Isak there's
Mikel
a
Antonio on loan at deadline day.
Yeah. So the worst possible outcome is for us to believe that we could get Isak and not get him, while Newcastle deliberately screw us over and take great pleasure driving up the price of Isak. So yes, I think you're right. It would screw us in a number of ways, including the preparation during the summer, the stability, the sense of disappointment that you only got Gyokeres instead of Isak at the last minute or whoever it would be. It's like, we got to make a decision early on up front and get it right. And it's probably take this high-level pragmatic approach, settle into it, whether it's Gyokeres or Sesko, and back your horse and make it happen.
Or Ekitike. Look, I would say this. Being a director of football is knowing when to gamble and how much to gamble. The Mesut Ozil summer could have looked like one of the colossal failure summers in Arsenal transfer window history. But you get Mesut Ozil from Real Madrid on deadline day, and you feel like you're floating. I didn't want us to go for Odegaard. I want us to go for Emi Buendia, because I remember thinking, Madrid's not going to sell us Odegaard. Let's not spend all summer fooling ourselves. We held our nerve and we got Martin Odegaard. Now, the director of football and the manager know things we don't know. For example, Odegaard only wanted Arsenal. And so we knew we would get him. The Ozil thing, they must have known something. Could you chase Isak all summer and not get him? You could. We can't afford to do it. So we'll have to see. I think Gyokeres falls squarely into the category for me where at 100 million euros, like last summer's mooted price, I think it's too big a roll of the dice based on his pedigree, his age, and the league he's playing in. But I think having seen him up close and personal, with what he's done in the Champions League, with the kind of skill set he has, the all-arounder he is, and the way he can, I think, play the position the way we need it played at 50 million and what you can still do to build out the squad and get it done early, I think it checks a lot of boxes. So now it's over to Berta to have the conviction of his decision and get it done. And with that, we can talk about Berta. I think we should do a bit of a part 2. But can't do a part 2 without advertisements, because then it would just feel like part 1 was stretching. You'd be like, oh, I thought we're getting a part 2, but this feels like it's still part 1. And then I'd get emails and be like, Elliot, hey, remember when you said there was going to be a part 2? But then you just kept talking, like there were no ads. And so I didn't know if it was part 2. I just felt like it was more part 1. It was all very confusing. And that just kind of let me down. Would I let you down? Don't answer that. But I'm not going to in this instance, because I'm going to tell you about NordVPN. Very simple. It's an app you put on your phone, you put it on your iPad, you put it on your Android, you put it on your computer, you click a button, and boom, you're browsing another location, which means no more of that. This video is not available in your area. That is the worst thing when someone sends you saying like, oh, you're not going to believe this. And you can't watch it. Now you can watch it. You can watch the match reviews of the day video. You can watch the things that matter to you in the location you want to be relevant in. If you're going to England to see Arsenal play and you want to watch the football, but it's blacked out, you can be the hero of the pub by NordVPNing back to your area and bringing the game on, like we did when we watched Fulham beat United a season ago, and the whole pub watched it. It was brilliant, even though it was blacked out where we were. So NordVPN also provides security protection, so you can stay threat-free when you're on those dodgy streams. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, so go to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And this podcast is a paid advertisement from BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online therapy. It's therapy that happens to be online. And once again, as I always say, you should do therapy. If you can go in an office and do it with a therapist in person, you should do that, because that is a wonderful thing. But if you can't find the time, if you don't have the courage to do that, if you don't have one in your area, if it's too expensive, suddenly, maybe you're like my mom, too old to drive. You can't drive anymore. Suddenly you're cut off from an important resource, an important thing you should be doing in your life. BetterHelp has experts certified in the things you need. A good therapist can become part of your support system. And while we should all have support systems in our lives, not all of us have the support we need. You need someone who can be there for you. So, this is your chance to do that. With over 5,000 therapists in the UK alone, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise in mental health. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Vision. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Vision. Do it now. And Shopify. E-commerce. E-commerce is a great way to get your products out there. If you make art, if you make designs, if you have a book, if you have clothing, whatever you want to sell, a digital product, you want a website that looks professional. And more of the Fortune 500 companies use Shopify as the backbone of their e-commerce than any other platform. Shopify is the e-commerce platform that lets you sell on Instagram, on Facebook, on all the other platforms without having to know how to do it. It takes care of the cart stuff, checkout stuff, shipping and taxation stuff without you having to know how to do it. You just have to know what to write about your product and what pictures to use. It does the rest. Established in 2025 is a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision and start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And finally, Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. What a waste of time. Indeed's sponsored jobs help you stand out fast. With sponsored jobs, your posts jump to the top of the page for relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. To me, it is just simple. Why would you sludge 72 websites of sludge to try to do one thing when you can use one great website that has perfected the idea of combining, collating, collecting, and distributing great job posts to everybody who is looking to get hired? How fast is Indeed? In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. That's incredible. No need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners to this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring. Indeed's all you need. Enough of that.
Indeed.
Nailed it. We're going to do a bit on Berta, then we'll just quickly have a say on the FA Cup briefly. But Clive, so Berta has officially been announced. He is the guy. He takes over. give me your first 30 days in Andrea Berta's life at Arsenal. What does he need to accomplish? What does he need to do? What is success for Berta in his first 30 days? You're new in that role. You hit the ground. What's he got to do to be positioned for the hashtag most important transfer window in Arsenal history?
Well, the intro is quite clear, isn't it? He's got to sign all the players that we want.
None of the players we don't.
We've got to keep all the players that we want to keep.
Yep.
Do it all at the right price. And all those players have got to work and never get injured.
Sell the players we don't like too. Don't forget.
I'll sell the players that we don't like for 5 to 10 million over on each every single player that we want to sell. Right, so that's it. If you do that, then I'm afraid everything will be good, right? But that's not how it works. I think.
Anything else?
Oh, by the way, then win all the trophies at the same time, which is also very important. So I think the most important thing for him really is just to see what the club's like and get involved and do things his way, not the way we expect it to be. He's an experienced guy. He has a way of working, and he needs to continue to do that in a different environment. And I hope he settles down nicely. He's got to learn a new language, which again will be interesting. But not if you haven't got enough people that can speak Spanish and Italian around the club, so he won't be lost there. So yeah, I'm just really interested to see how he comes across and how he communicates and what style of communication he has. I think that's really key. I don't think I've got an expectation. I don't. But I only wanted to see somebody come in with experience. I've just got a very simple phrase. You don't know what you don't know. It's as simple as that. And we've done a lot of internal sort of promotions, but I wanted to see new knowledge into the club. That's all I wanted to see. Different way of looking at things, different relationships. Maybe we can get some things done that we couldn't previously do before with different contacts. And so, yeah, I'm all for that. It makes us better, makes us broader, makes us just more clout to who we are. That's what I want to see. Judgment will come over time, right? The key thing is that he gets on with the manager, who is the central point in this whole project. And that's the key thing, that they are aligned. And that's what I want to see. The rest is just paper, right? It's just stuff that we all know we need to do. And hopefully he can do it all and we're good.
Yeah, I will say, if you want the Atleti view of Berta, we did a patron pod with an Atleti expert, and I have to say I was more impressed than even I expected to be. His information was excellent, and I think you get a really good bit of context on the deals he did there, but also the way he fit into the hierarchy there.
Yeah, we should repost that, Elliot, because I thought that was a brilliant podcast. I learned so much from it, right? And the way he spoke was so informed. It was really, really good. So we should make sure people see that one.
There you go. Clive giving away the patron stuff for free. So I guess I'm going to post that on the main feed for free for everybody as our way of saying thank you for giving to the fundraiser. How's that sound? I will get that out probably later this week or early next week for free for everybody. And patrons, you can blame Clive for that bit of charity, but it is a month to be charitable. So thanks to everybody for that. Okay. Paul, I am sort of torn because I think that there is a tendency to think of directors of football as oracles, when they're good at it, or the reason for all failure when they're bad at it. I mean, the extent to which Jason Ato came in for criticism in January, I thought was stunning because, first of all, the idea that he was imbued with any kind of significant power over the decision-making, I think is probably not accurate. Not to mention he had no time to prepare for the role with Edu leaving suddenly, and the January window is tough enough to begin with. But that's just the nature of the role. What I'm curious, your take is, how important do you think Berta is, period? You have Tim Lewis, Richard Garlick, Josh Kroenke, Mikel Arteta is still there. Jason Ato's staying. It sounds like Berta's not bringing in his own people, but going to work within the structure that's at Arsenal. So is he a piece of the puzzle, or is he the piece of the puzzle?
I think it's really big. I think he's one of a couple of the pieces of the puzzle that like the idea this guy's going to come in and it's not going to change who we buy is inconceivable to me. So, and even the talk of, our plan for the summer is all set, so there's really not that much for him to do for a little, like, bullshit. We still need a striker. Now, to Clive's excellent point, the Athletic maybe David Ornstein may be feathering the nest a little bit for Berta coming in with the well-timed story, but I bet it's also true, as it tends to be. And even if we had a plan A, I think we're familiar with the fact that plan A's last about as long as the battle plan lasts when you meet the enemy. You need your plans B, C, D, and E. And even with plan A, there are choices. There's a list. Here's our first guy. Here's our set. Like huge summer for us. I'm amazed how many players, positions, areas of the pitch. It feels like we've done so much work all these each season, each window, but there's loads of work to do. And the idea that a guy that comes in from basically another part of the football world, or at least the football continent, doesn't come in with a whole other view of players, options, ways of doing things that will, and like you mentioned, doesn't bring in his own team. I would say doesn't bring in his own team yet, because we're pretty settled, we're pretty structured. I'm not saying he'll bring in his team, but we will probably make some adjustments to one or two individuals in terms of the overall setup over the next year or so. There was a lot of talk about Arteta's such a strong presence in the club now. So, why would this guy even take that position given Edu's felt constrained by the situation? This guy's worked with Diego Simeone for 12 years. They've won a couple of leagues. They've got to a couple of Champions League finals. He's adept, skilled at working with a strong manager with very clear ideas and finding solutions. I can't imagine. He's obviously very committed to this job over other jobs. Apparently, he moved to London early in 2025 so he could get settled, get into the culture, get his language skills going. So this was the position he wanted. I assume it's because it's going to give him the scope to contribute. So I think you and I definitely feel about this kind of thing maybe a little different.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No.
You tend to say managers, what do they really do? Directors of football, they're good, but they're not great. I definitely think at the top end, which is where we're trying to be, they make critical and frequent differences. And I think the players we buy over the next 36 months, if you could have parallel universes, will end up being very different before a scenario with Berta versus somebody else. So I think it's very consequential.
And I'm not disagreeing with that specifically, right? I'm not saying he's not important. I'm saying I think there's a tendency to think of these people as oracles, as the sort of authority, the single authoritative decision maker around this process. And I don't think that's how it works at Arsenal. I certainly don't think that's how it worked at Letty either. And he had a person above him at Letty who made the bigger decisions, right? But Clive, do you want to sort of come back in on that thought of where he fits into the hierarchy?
I think this is really interesting because, for me, how Arsenal operate in a world which really, for me, fills up my thoughts, which is change, renewal, recruitment, moving people in, moving people out, the people that keep us awake at night and that we dream about are the players, right? And so how we operate to improve our playing staff is really important. So it's no one person that does it; it's a team of people that does it. So how they all align in the synergy amongst them is really important. How he aligns to our football vision, like the manager has, and he can help him implement it. Because if we're honest, that stalled a little bit this year. There may be good reasons for it. I didn't see Man City woke up in January, bought a bunch of people. Liverpool haven't bought anybody really, apart from an Italian striker they barely played and a goalkeeper that's having bad form this year they're going to use next year. And they got a goalkeeping sort of pile up occurring there. So someone's going to have to go, like Keller, for example. So how we operate going forward is important because I do think we have a a really special group of players. We have a couple potentially that are generational style talented players, 23, 24. I think it's very important that we operate in a way that maintains and sustains their career. And we have to change our mentality. I touched this in the last pod, and I really believe in this. We're close, but we need to real sit down, have a look, and have a talk with ourselves about how we cope with pressure going forward. Because next year, with the right number of buys, we are going to be seen as the favourite for the league potentially. Mikel Arteta in this contract, he's going to have to win something. That's just the way. That's just the world that's been, the narrative that's been spun. He's going to have to win something and win something.
Clive, it's the first season that I would agree in the summer with people who said, he's going to have to win something. I thought that was ridiculous last season.
Yeah.
But
we hoped he'd win something, but he has to win something now, Paul.
Yeah, but going in this summer, if that's the talk, I mean, I'm not going to argue with Jamie Carragher or whatever. He needs to, we're at that point where it's pee or get off the pot. You got to put up, you got to deliver. So that's where we're at.
He needs to, we need to, and when I talk about mentality, I include us all in this, right? I include us all about how we approach our football matches, the environment we create around the team. I've been watching a lot of Liverpool stuff and then losing their minds over Trent, etc. But they have an identity, their fan base, about how passionate they are about their city, about their club. And it's the most important thing in the world. I think we break apart too easily as a fan base, if I'm honest with you. I know everyone does it. I only care about Arsenal. But we break apart into camps too quickly. And we don't see the improvement. But I'll tell you now, this is a moment where we need to ask ourselves the question, we need to make the step. And what does that step involve? It doesn't involve doing the same things we've always done. Because we've never won a European Cup. And we haven't won a league for 22 years. So these are questions we have to sit down and ask ourselves these questions. Say, okay, what do we need to do to make the next step? So this is one of those steps, I feel. And I'm really excited about how we operate going forward. We love our team. We support our club massively. We all do. But we also need to have a good look at ourselves in the full-length mirror and say, right, what's next? We need to go now. We need to really go. And this is the time for me. This is the time.
Well, can I ask you then, Clive? I mean, in terms of realistically what Berta can do in terms of his influence in the short term, how much of the summer's plan do you think is even in a position to be steered by him? I mean, you could argue that arriving officially, essentially in April, leaves you in a position where the club are probably pretty close to alignment on what they want from this upcoming window. How well positioned is he to even make any kind of substantial pivots? Like, for example, we had reporting that he really likes Bruno Guimaraes. We're nearly done on Zubimendi as far as we know. Like, how much influence can he have arriving in April, essentially, in terms of steering summer plans? Or is he only going to really be able to operate at the fringes in this first window in terms of changing any decision-making that might have been agreed upon?
So we've got all the headline names in our sort of Twitter feed, right? We know the ones we want, and we've been working on them for a long time, and they're all known to all of us. We watched all the YouTubes, we watched all the comps, right? So, but there are other things we need to potentially do. We could be losing a lot of fullbacks, for example, and there could be a potential in that space to do something different. Elliot, you want an attacking midfielder potentially on our left-hand side.
I do.
Right, as an option. It doesn't have to be a 27-year-old English bloke for 80 million quid.
No.
Right? It can be something else. And in Spain, they've got quite a few of these players, and maybe we don't know in different clubs, and I do think it's going to be interesting to see how he does this. I always hoped with Edu, for example, that we'd see a Brazilian come in that was out of this world that no one else knew about. Well, they've all gone to Chelsea. Right. So, but we don't know the story behind some of those, and did we actually go for them, or were we outbid, etc., etc. But yeah,
are Chelsea becoming a singularity that will eventually just devour the whole world, and all human beings will be a member of Chelsea Football Club in the next 5 years?
Yeah,
will I be a member of Chelsea Football Club? I don't even know it.
Mate, we need to get a financial person on for that podcast, and because They can sell hotels to themselves. It doesn't seem to matter. They even sold the women's team to themselves, right? And now they've already signed 2 players.
It's like the
Already.
Prestige Worldwide commercial from the show Step Brothers or whatever. It's like, profit. Next step, step 1, sell yourself your assets. Step 2, profit. Investors, you.
I keep looking at it, waiting for the house of cards to fall down. And of course, this Club World Cup comes up and chucks them another 50 million quid to get him out of jail. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I despise that club, and I do, and I want them to get the comeuppance so badly because I don't like how they operate.
To be fair to Chelsea Football Club, no, forget it.
I don't like how they inflate the market for everybody else and have done for many, many years, right? And I think that's a big issue.
I'll defend billionaires. I'll defend dictators.
When we need the billionaire defender, Paul, you can log on. Keep going, Clive, please. Well, no, but seriously, I setting aside Chelsea because please let's set aside Chelsea. Like, there are a lot of moves that we can make. I have some skepticism about how much we're going to want to pivot at this stage in terms of plans that are in place. But let me ask you this. Berta has a reputation for being quite close to some super agents. That can go wrong, as we saw with Raul, but it can be a good thing. Is there a case of maybe a player you never thought about, but he's on the roster somewhere and there's a bit of an agent work there? I mean, could that be a thing that happens, that one of the agents he's close with suggests a player none of us were linked with and all of a sudden things transpire very quickly?
Well, it could be, Elliot, but there are players in our squad, like say, for example, Fabio Vieira, right? So what if Berta can find a good home for him at a good price?
Chelsea?
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's part of the business, isn't it? Zinchenko, probably someone's going to have to go, given Miles' ascension. So if you can get somewhere for him at a good price, this is all part of it. And if he's got contacts with clubs to fix problems that he knows they have, and suddenly our players go to the top of their list. This is all part of it. It's not just about the shiny new signings. It's about the outs as well as the ins. So we've also got a number of contracts to renew. We all know who they are, which we all hope for they're going to happen. And I think that's not just down to him. That's down to everything we have and we do and our ambition, right? So that allows all those players to sign. If they don't think we're moving forward at the right rate, then that won't happen, right? But we should be looking at everything to make sure the environment's correct for them, including, I know we've done some work on the training ground recently, but I've just seen Bournemouth open a new training ground. It's absolutely unbelievable. Crystal Palace have opened one recently. We all know that Spurs have got more training grounds than anybody else. We got to do everything in our power to create an environment that means the top level players want to stay and want to re-sign, etc., etc. And so he's part of all of that. And I was quite interested to see Elliot. I was wondering when Edu left, would they change the structure? But it seems as though they're going to keep the structure the same, which means, if I'm correct, that means he's basically head of football, which means the youth football, the women's football, and the men's football roll up to him. Now, Edu assumed that role over time due to his doing so well, and so they expanded his role. So if I'm wrong, that'll come out as well in the comments, but I think he's getting the same role. And I wondered if it was an opportunity to change the structure a little bit and make it a bit more first team century, but it seems that's not the case, right? So he's going to have a broad impact across the club. So it's not all about the shining centre forwards, but everything we do, youth levels, maybe youth signings, youth talents, other clubs, other regions. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how he settles down and how he creates an identity for us going forward.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this as a final thing then. True or false? Paul, I'll let you hit this first, but let's answer this quickly and get out of here so Clive can get back to celebrating Mother's Day. I would say he's now been away long enough where the moment of solitude has passed and now company would be welcome again. Plus, it looks like his red wine is empty. But so true or false, this window, just speaking this window, the better reflection of Berta's influence will be sales and contract renewals rather than signings due to the fact that that process may already be pretty close to wrapped up. True or false on that?
False.
Okay, so you think he will still have a major impact on signings as early as this window?
I think he's going to have an ability to impact signings in a way that he won't have an impact on contract renewals. I mean, that's an area he knows nothing about. He doesn't know the culture of the players. He doesn't know the rates. He doesn't know the competition. Chelsea's shenanigans. Why give him that problem? One thing he does know about is finding an option B and option C. As you said, there's a role occasionally for the super agent where, oh no, there's nobody available. These players aren't available. Time's winding down. Suddenly a player is pulled from a team that wasn't looking to sell because the super agent does the deal, has the contacts, throws the money around, promises them something. It doesn't mean he'll be dominant in all of our buying activity, but the critical things that need to be addressed. Take the January window, right? Oh, we got a plan for January. Suddenly we have a problem. You're always going to need the plan B, the options that went away, the guy you really want to come to your club when in fact you got competition from other clubs.
Finding that fourth fullback and that third goalkeeper. That's where he's really going to move the needle.
And getting Isak over the line.
Right. Yeah, and let's face it, with contract renewals, the one thing I will say is, if you guys have ever done this, if you negotiate with the same person over and over and over again, you get really familiar with them. And that can make it easier to negotiate. Berta's arrival is going to be an interesting one, because suddenly these players' agents will have a very different person in the room, a very different style, very different approach. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch, how that influences renewals. I think we should leave it there so Clive can get back to Mother's Day, and we got a lot of content coming this week. So rather than stretch this out, he was nice enough to come on so that you weren't stuck with just me and Paul. Not that you wouldn't have absolutely loved that. You will be stuck with Scott and Paul, because coming shortly, there will be a Stats Guy and a Civilian episode, which you will see on the Patreon feed. You will, of course, be seeing the Ekitike scouting video on the Patreon feed. You can check out the Gyokeres scouting video there. The SCAC episode I'm just reading here. Pause and Scott break down the upcoming fixtures, how each team plays, build up for what challenges they will present to Arsenal, plus how Arsenal are looking at set play FC and why some of the goals have dried up. Okay, so that's what you can look forward to there. I am also looking forward to that. Clive, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Paul, thanks. Mm-hmm. I am so glad to be back. Whether you all are as happy about it or not, stay tuned for news breaking on the fundraiser opening up so that we can all raise money for a cause. Because you know what? It can't just be about the player signings and the trophies and the winning. The reason we love Arsenal isn't just for that. It has to mean more than that. It has to be about community. It has to be about coming together. We all do this for more than just the wins and losses because of what it adds to our life. And so this is a way to give back. So, okay, enough of that. We love you. And for the love of God, we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Fulham 0.